And a happy Monday to you. Welcome on into Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar here on Sports Hub STL. Joe Roderick, Mike Claiborne with you as the Cardinals have a night game tonight. So, Claibs, you have the day off today. Are you making the trip up there today, or are you off?
Port St. Lucie?
Yeah.
No.
That's too far out of your radius?
Well, yes and no. It's not the most ideal place to work from. And getting out of that ballpark is a challenge in its own right. So we're going to unveil a new setup today where Tom Ackerman is here and young Stephen Carey is going to do the game with Tom. So he is the designated driver, so to say.
Okay.
So, and you know, it'll be a pretty good game because the Mets are at home. Sonny Gray's going to pitch. They'll run out a good lineup. You know, Mets do have a good lineup, so it'll be a good test for Sonny.
Yesterday, the Cardinals in their Sunday game ran out. I guess initially the initial lineup that was put out was damn near as close to an opening day lineup as we're going to see in spring training, minus Jordan Walker, but then Brendan Donovan gets pulled from that. Do you expect Ali Marmol to go with that at any other point in this spring training?
I think
what is the plan moving forward?
I think we'll see that lineup a lot more, just to have some continuity. And I think the X factor here is the fact that Victor Scott is back in the conversation. I don't think Victor Scott was a person they really had penciled in to be part of this, where are you going to make him a fourth outfielder? Are you going to send him to Memphis and work on his game? Victor Scott has taken that job back. The offense has been good. He hasn't been good the last couple of days, but he has a different approach. His defense has been above average, if not super solid. Maybe the best defender we've seen in the spring. Made 2 plays yesterday that were difference makers in the game. He's catching everything, hitting his area. And has a better understanding of how to play the outfield at big league level. So that's someone I don't imagine they were really thinking that much of, but he's there. Throw in the fact that Siani is two for the spring. It just isn't working for him right now at the plate. And they let him off. They've hit him ninth. They've done everything they can do. And there's still time. I'm not saying that Michael Siani won't be on this ball club, but if the season started tomorrow, and fortunately it doesn't, I don't know where his role would be.
Yeah, and he's not. Siani won't get the benefit of the doubt that some veterans might that are struggling. That will wait until you see March 20 something on the calendar, and then decide, okay, you know what? Hey, opening day is around the corner. I need to turn this on a little bit more.
Yeah,
Siani's a guy that you want to see that from start to finish. You want to see that he's not going to struggle at all to give him a spot on the big roster.
No, hey, we like him. Don't love him enough to just give him a free pass. And there's some other competition going on in different positions. Utility infield is very interesting now. Jose Barrera has done a nice job. He played multiple positions. He's got a big arm. He's swinging the bat a little bit better. And so he and Jose Fermín, who's starting to swing the bat well also, those two guys probably have the inside track because they both swing from the right side. Michael Hellman, who they acquired before the spring training started from Minnesota, had really been kind of quiet until the last couple of days where he's had a couple of hits, made a couple of good plays in the field. I don't know if he has enough space to really have enough of an impact. So you have that situation, and then what do you do with Alec Burleson? Because of the Arenado situation and Gorman, you want to give him some space at third base. But now it looks like he's going to play in second. And until the last 3 days, Nolan Gorman of 2025 looked a whole lot like Nolan Gorman of 2024. It just didn't. It was not a good look. But the last couple of days, he swung the bat much better. And you hope you can build on that. But I reminded someone yesterday, that happened last year. Got off to a terrible start. Everybody was wondering. Then he put about 3 or 4 games together. And we said, all right, this is the guy. Comes to the season, he goes back to Nolan Gorman. Now, he hit 19 home runs, but he was well on his way to breaking the strikeout record for the team. So you hope that maybe some things have improved with him where he can, just be more consistent and swinging more strikes. And we'll find out. And I think he's a guy that's going to play a lot, whether it's
The
DH or wherever.
This is something, and Claims, I don't think you and I have talked about this on a show that we've done together, is the Alec Burleson situation, and kind of where he fits in. I like him a lot. I think that from what he did last year with the Cardinals, batting second for towards the end of the year, being one of the most consistent bats you had at the plate, I feel like it's a bit unfair that he does seem like he's on the outside looking in for a starting spot in 2025 right now. I get where everybody else fits in, but as you kind of look at the way the team's being built, is he getting a fair shot right now based on the way he kind of held the offense together last year on his own?
They're trying to be as creative as they can to get him opportunities, whether it's as a DH or a first baseman. We haven't seen much of him in the outfield yet. I really believe that's going to ramp up a little bit here this third week, where you're going to see more of him, and they're going to just have to continue to be creative. It's really an unfortunate situation, as you mentioned, because he was really their best hitter, best run producer last year. And there's something that should be said for that. Now, this is a team that didn't score a lot of runs, but he was a guy who, when given the opportunity, did what he was able to do. And he should get a longer look. Now, how that looks, I don't know, other than where we're seeing him now, first base, DH. You can throw him in the outfield, but that's a crowded situation already too. So this is why managers and coaches do what they do. They're the ones in charge of being creative and figuring it out.
And yeah, with with Wilson Contreras being in that first year role at first base, it's one where, okay, if you give him 2, maybe 3 days off a week and just DH him, that does seem to be where Burleson's going to end up sliding in. It's just those other days of the week that you need to find him those at bats as well.
Well, it also depends on who's pitching. How many righties is he going to see? How many lefties is he going to see? What's the bullpen look like? Where, they go through the order twice and all of a sudden they come back with a lefty. There are a lot of things that go into how this lineup is going to look, not just in the first inning, but that seventh inning, when things kind of change over, is how you have to be able to make adjustments, and guys have to be ready to adjust.
Claibs, by the way, powered by Gray Bar here on Cards Hub 365. Your comments welcome in the YouTube chat to chime in on the discussion today. Getting a little more off the field right now, Claibs. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yet in The Athletic today.
I did.
Yeah, Yadier Molina had some comments, spoke out, and had this to say for this is the first time this franchise didn't really sign anybody in free agency, right? When fans see something like that, it's weird. It's weird for us as fans right now. I don't want to say they are not competing. That's disrespectful to the players. But as a fan, how are we going to compete this year? So Yadier Molina, who has not been in Jupiter, I believe at all since he's retired for the Cardinals, kind of just as an outsider looking in now into the organization. What are your thoughts on Yadi speaking out about the Cardinals offseason moves?
Well, it's his opinion. When he says it's an insult to the players, I think that's an insult to say we always have to go out and get somebody because our guys aren't very good or not good enough. This is different for everyone. I mean, we've always had a tradition of trying to make ourselves better if the right person was there. You decide you want to go in a different direction as far as allocation of money and resources. And I would ask, of the people who were out there, who would have been a difference maker that would have been of a reasonable sign? I'm not talking about a 10 and 12-year contract. Anybody can say Soto, okay?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you too. Yeah, that was my question to you is who would you have gone out there?
Who would you have gone after that you think would have been that real legitimate difference maker of not getting in the postseason, but getting post and beyond? And it's easy, I just want to know who that player is. And then when you look at the money that they're getting paid, and everybody gets paid money, But then there are certain people that are in a category where you just say, no, that's just not how we roll. So,
Right.
and hey, listen, love to hear who you think. And maybe there's somebody we're not thinking of that you say, well, if we hit him here or we played him there or we pitched him here, you say, well, okay, that might be interesting, but we looked at that situation in the last few years. We thought the Goldschmidt Arenado combination was going to be the one that was coveted by everyone. Well, it didn't work. And I don't know why. I mean, you look back, we're on our third hitting coach.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder, is it the philosophy, the coaching, when there are three different people who are in charge of the hitting and you still find yourself spinning your wheels and some have obviously regressed. I don't know how you can, I don't know how you fix that because I haven't seen it before. And go ahead.
No, I'm sitting here too as you're talking. I'm just trying to rack my brain as to some of the offseason acquisitions that were made, some of the big free agent signings that were out there. And we're not even talking, going out and making a trade that for something there might be, but as of right now, when you look at the starting 9 the Cardinals are going to put out there on opening day, and even if you want to add Burleson 10, you can't say it. It would be disrespectful to say it, but of those 10, there's not a single one that you look at and you go, that guy doesn't belong on a major league roster. That guy doesn't belong starting. I think, will the Cardinals go out and win 100 games this year? Probably not. But if you look at their starting 10 right now, all of those guys, I think you've put them on different rosters around baseball and they would find themselves in the mix for a starting spot on whatever team they go on. And include the Dodgers into something like that. I think a lot of these guys, you would find them to have roles one way or another with an organization like that too.
Yeah. And here's a living example. Who had heard of Tommy Edman? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that had never played the outfield since high school and is going to start in center field for the Dodgers. He came over in that deal and he really kind of helped them get it going. But this is the other thing, and you and I've talked about this a little bit. This isn't like you're bringing up the whole Memphis Redbird team. With the exception of Mason Wynn, everybody you're running out there has at least 2, if not 3 years of big league experience. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them have been hurt. Some of them have not played as much as they would like, but they've been here. So they get it. And when you have that working for you, you hope the results are going to be better. And you think about this, you have a lot of guys who are in that 26, 27 year, 28 year age range now. They're not 22 years. I mean, you look at Wynn and Walker, but you look around the rest of that team, these guys have a little crust on them. Mm-hmm. So I think it gives you an advantage of being able to know how this works compared to having to learn on the fly. And that's why I look at the Cardinals as maybe the biggest head scratcher of all of baseball, because no one knows what they're capable of doing. I think it's easy to say, well, if they can get 500, that'd be okay. Well, maybe they're better than 500. We just don't know about them because we don't have marquee players. I mean, you take Arenado out the table and Wilson Contreras, who's been on a championship team, but the other guys, you bring their names up and you're like, yeah, nice player, but I don't really know a lot about him. And that's the challenge that they're dealing with now. So maybe they work under the radar long enough to get their feet under the ground and see what they can do.
And that's exactly, Ethan Hannaford and I talked about this on Saturday. If you look at this team, they're not, I know I just threw out there a few minutes ago talking about, are they a 100-win team? Probably not. Are they a 90-loss team? I don't think they're a 90-loss team either. And when you talk 90 losses, you're talking bottom of the barrel in Major League Baseball these days. So if you're going to tell me they're a 500 team, an 82-80 team, then I think you start to look at it and you go, okay, with the players we have, if this guy performs to the level we thought, okay, can you get me to 85 wins or 86 wins? If you get me there, can you get me to 88? And then you're looking at, okay, is that enough for a wild card round? Because right now, 40% of baseball makes a wild card round? That's, I mean, you look at, when you start to crunch those numbers like that, you can almost talk yourself into to this being a team that should be fighting or should at least get you excited about going down to the ballpark.
Yeah. And again, if you knew these players better, excuse me, it would probably make it easier for you to make that decision to go. I look at Brendan Donovan and Mason Wynn and players of that nature who are about to make that statement about leadership. And once we have a face of this team, because look, the last few years it's been Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, and before those guys it was Waino and Yadi. And when you go back and it was Albert, and I mean you always had somebody. So now we're looking for some new faces who can play, and we're going to find out because they're going to get a chance to play. Obviously the one thing we can't write down in ink is injuries and how deep are you at certain positions. I mean, there's certain positions that if a guy goes down, you might be in a little trouble. And I'll give you one. Who's the next third baseman in the organization beyond Nolan Gorman?
So you're talking after Arenado, after Gorman,
right.
Who's the next third baseman after that?
Let's say you are able to move Arenado, and I have no idea. I have not heard anything. But let's say if you move him, so Gorman goes to third. Gorman's back goes out, or Gorman gets hurt, or Gorman doesn't perform. Who are you going to put at third base?
From there, I would imagine the initial options are Brendan Donovan or Thomas Saggese.
You haven't watched the JC very much, have you?
No, but I'm just saying. I think if you are saying who needs to start tomorrow, those are the top two options, right?
Okay.
On the 40-man, are those the next two options?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. And neither one of them is a third baseman. That's the other thing. So you have to be very fingers crossed in not getting anyone hurt because you're not very deep as an organization right now.
The other thing that came out in The Athletic today as well, Claibs, I don't know if you've seen this. Jim Bowden gave his report cards for the 2025 MLB report cards, listed the Cardinals as an F right now for that. The only organization that Jim Bowden gave an F to with that. So as far as the franchises go, that is what he thinks of the Cardinals.
Because of their inactivity?
Yes.
Well, again, Jim has an opinion. And again, I understand why people might be down because remember, this is an organization, man, that has prided itself on being competitive on a national level, not just trying to win a division, but trying to say we want to get deep in the postseason. We want to get to a World Series, and we have the players to do it. And I guess my question to Jim would be, knowing that the organization is trying to reload, reset, remodel, who would he like? Who would he like for him to sign? Under the category of how the Cardinals sign players. And I'll remind everyone, the Cardinals have shown the ability to spend money. I mean, if you looked around, they had about $60 million worth of corner infields last year,
right?
In Arenado and Goldschmidt. So, and I also remind people that the Cardinals have lost one person of substantial skill in the free agency, and that was Albert. What free agent that they had on their roster that still could play that they elected to let go to someone else?
Hayward?
Doesn't happen.
Do you include Hayward in something like that? Jason Hayward?
Yeah, Hayward, but Hayward left.
And he was traded here, and
he left because he thought the Cardinals had hit the wall and the Cubs paid him more money.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that into the equation too.
Right.
But it doesn't happen very often. So while I think it's cute for people to say that, I think if Jim Bowden peeled off the next layer of how we got to where we are, I would think he would maybe reconsider F. And if he wants to give him an F because of inactivity, he's certainly entitled to do that because they didn't do very much, if anything.
Claves, while we've been talking here, the Cardinals came out with their lineup for tonight's game in Port St. Lucie. It's Mason Wynn at short, Donovan in left, Burleson at first, Luke and Baker DHing. I believe it's his birthday today as well. Nolan Gorman at third, Pages behind the plate, Saggese is at second, Scott in right, Siani in center with Sonny Gray on the mound. So not a full everyday starting lineup, but a lot of the names that you're going to see in St. Louis are there today for the Cardinals.
Yeah, we used to have, there is a rule where you had to be able to take so many big leaguers on the road, and teams have kind of looked the other way on that. And the veteran players, Arenado's made one trip this year, and that was over to Tampa. And sometimes that can be a little hard to create cohesiveness, but it also gives you a chance to get a look at some other people. Like, this is one of the few times Brendan Donovan's played left field. It may be the first time he's played left field this year. Victor Scott has played a majority of left and center. So for him to be a corner guy in right, and when I look at that lineup, he probably has the best throwing arm of any one of those guys out there. So, and you want to mix and match a little bit, but a week from now, we'll start to see a lineup commensurate to what we had yesterday. That's going to probably resemble what opening day looks like, depending on the pitcher and the circumstances and the health.
The Mets, their lineup's out as well. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Winker, Vientos, Marte, McNeil, Luis Torrens catching for them now that they've lost their catcher for the next 2 months, and then Jose Siri in center field. Griffin Canning pitching against the Mets. Not very familiar with his work.
Saw him last year a little bit. He's a guy that, listen, they're auditioning for pitching spots too. I mean, they have 2 of their guys that are already out. So everybody's getting a longer look right now. But the Mets roll out a pretty good lineup, man.
How far do you expect Sonny to go today? What do you think the expectations are with him?
He'll go probably 4 innings, at least 4 up and down, maybe 5. And maybe 65, 70 pitches, perhaps. He's worked a lot on the backfield, so he's built up to this point. Even though he's had one start on a big field, he's worked on his own. So I don't really worry about his setup at this point. When you're a veteran like that, you kind of know how you are and what works, and you just let him go. Yes, Sonny, go ahead. We'll see you in 5 days.
And so 2 weeks from Thursday. I don't think it's been actually announced yet, Claibs. They were really wanting Ollie to announce it back in February, and he wouldn't. I haven't heard Ollie announce it yet,
and so, he hasn't. There's no reason to.
We can't report that officially. That Sonny is.
Let it go.
But 2 weeks from Thursday, Sonny will be starting for the Cardinals. This start plus 1 more, 2 more. Like, what do you think the plan is for him in games?
I think that depends on how things go today. I'm sure he's going to get 1 more start. And he may get a couple of innings in. It just depends on how he feels. They want to protect the hamstrings. Those were a problem for him last year. And they don't want to put too much stress too early. I mean, we have a lot of off days in the month of April. So you want to keep him sharp, but you don't want to, have him run to the wall and hit it. And then here comes opening day. So I think we'll have a better idea after tonight.
All right, Claibs, you on the call the next 2 days after this?
I am reported to be somewhere in the ballpark for the next 2 days. I have no idea who I'm working with tomorrow. I think it's Ricky Horton and myself and John on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Thursday, I am working with someone, and Friday I'm off.
All right. My folks are down there in Jupiter, Claibs, so be sure to say hi to them. If
let them know whatever they need while they're here.
The next 2 days.
More than happy to see you.
Their first time down there, so
really?
I will heed to you all recommendations that you'll give them.
Well, this is kind of a busy time. Everybody comes down. The restaurants are all pretty healthy. There's some fun places I'm sure they'll have to go and check out, and just put them in touch with me, and I'll make sure they have an enjoyable time.
Will do. Claibs, will listen to you on the call tomorrow for the game. If any kind of breaking news happens along the way, that Sports Hub STL is going to come your way with instant reaction of any of it. And always Cards Hub 365 each and every day, 365 days a year of Cardinal talk right here on Sports Hub STL. Until tomorrow, he is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. Talk to you then.